Hi there, Internet. And welcome back for a bit more game dev. So I finished the stream about an hour ago. Well, an hour and a half ago. And I said I will probably continue later. And now it's later. So let's continue. And let's see what is what. So we are trying to finish, or at least almost finish, this vehicle today. For pre-alpha 2, which is going to be out in a few days, on the 7th. And one of the notable things missing for this guy at this point is its own engine sound. And I think that will most likely be tomorrow's thing, or the day after that. I don't know exactly. I have a few things that need to be fixed. That's something that we can live without if it comes to that. But I have a bunch of smaller things that I would like to do for this guy. And I was thinking we would do those today. Hey Jake, welcome back. So I have a big list, big to-do list for my pre-alpha. Looks something like this. And here we have the gripper truck. A lot of the things are already done. Sound effects, as I mentioned, is one thing that's not done yet. Previously, we looked, or in the previous stream about an hour ago, we looked at this silly little thing which happens when you try to actually squeeze or grab hold of something which is not a dynamic object. So one of these trees, or actually maybe this is the perfect thing to demonstrate this with. Hey Anton, welcome back. So we have this pipeline here, and the pipeline has these support pillars, right? So if we grab one of these things, and we need to be very careful with this, because you can sort of you can do this, you can grab it, and actually this is absolutely the perfect size, it would seem. You see, we can do this sort of pretty silly thing, where you just lift the whole thing into the air by just grabbing and squeezing one of these things. But it's very sort of wonky and jittery and all of that. And that's because we never essentially stop trying to squeeze what is there, even if it can't really be squeezed. So we have a power cell here. This is a dynamic object. And the logic for this is such that if I press the button here, if I squeeze this, you can see now no matter how much I squeeze the thing, it won't squeeze it any further, because it's sort of determined that okay, we are now holding that thing. And so that's nice, because that makes it so that we don't get this jittery physics that come from the fact that you're trying to force an object through something else. Is the arm kinematic? The arm is not kinematic, no. It's not kinematic. And because it's not kinematic, you can actually... Let's see if we can do something funky. How can I flip this thing upside down the most easily? It's actually not super simple. But anyway, the arm is not actually kinematic. Actually, you can probably see it a little bit in here. The fact that this arm has a mass, because if we just move it back and forth like this, you can see the whole car sort of like jumping up and down a little bit. So it's actually just a set of bodies that are driven by a few joints. Yeah, constrained with a motor is another way of saying that. So I'm using a 6 degree of freedom joint, and then I have a motor which has just like an absolutely enormous max force currently. We might have to be a little bit careful with that in the future, because this thing can just like break planets now, right? There's an unstoppable force essentially. But yeah, it's actually it's like a set of bodies. Might be a little difficult to see here, but we have these red boxes here. They are the shapes for those bodies, and they're jittering a little bit because like the physics is not interpolated. Maybe if I stand still, it's easier to see them. So the red ones are the actual bodies. These white ones which turn black, they are the so-called mass frame for the objects. And that's why it looks a little messy, this thing. But yeah, they're not kinematic, and that actually comes with a whole heap of things that we need to like. You might be able to call them issues. You can also just call them like fun things that we can do. I do use some kinematics things. These are kinematics. These doors, for example, so open the gates. Those are kinematic things. The monorail is also a kinematic thing, kinematic body. So this guy here. So if you put a card there, let's put a scout there. Press E. This thing is now moving around, and you can drive on it while it is moving. So that's that. And of course, like the bed on the back of the car is also works sort of similarly, in the sense that you can also lift and lower this, as well as these hatches here. But yeah, they are all physics bodies actually. So that's one thing. Another thing was the fact that another thing that we might want to do today is I've changed this so-called quick action here. Get rid of the IMGUI window. So if we have a piece of cargo, we can just lift it like this with a button click. And now that we have it held in this position, you might want to actually put it down somewhere else, right? We can load it into the back of the vehicle by clicking the button a second time, like this. I'm just gonna stop the thing now because I don't want to put it in the back. But if you want to put the thing down, you can't really currently easily do that. What you need to do is you need to go into the gripper arm mode, which allows you to control this thing directly, and then you can put it down, and then you can open the grip like this. Or alternatively, you can just press Y, which makes the arm go back to its rest pose, and also opening the claws, which just typically means that it will sort of drop the thing. But still, it would be nice if we could do that a bit easier without having to switch modes or anything like that. So now if I just want to move it over here next to these pieces of cargo here, I can just click something and it will basically do this without having to switch modes. And I was thinking, what if we just like use the same button as the one which is actually driving the quick pickup logic? You just hold that down, and that way it would, no matter what it would do, it would just automatically go back to the rest pose, regardless if you are actually holding something or not. That would be another pretty nice and cool thing to do. I think if we did that, then people would be very pleased with, or at least I would be very. I'm not going to put words into my players' mouths, but I would be very pleased with the logic this is. Then I have some other more minor things here. See if there's anything we can do about the gripper sliding a lot when it has cargo in the back. So that is, well, that's basically exactly what it says. If we have a lot of, let's see how many, we can probably fit like at least 6 of them, maybe 8 of these in the thing. Yeah. Oh no, that's not good. Let's pick it up and do a new thing. There we go. So this is just absolutely loaded, jam-packed with radioactive stuff or whatever that is. So now if we drive this somewhat fast, first of all, those things are kind of like, yeah, this is the thing. It just slides like crazy. Hey Wookie. So I don't know if gameplay or the campaign or anything would ever really require you to drive like this, and of course it is somewhat realistic that like you have to be kind of careful with how you drive. I've never driven a truck in my life, so I don't know if this is what actually happens, but this thing just starts absolutely sliding all over the place if you do this. And yeah, that's that's another thing. I was just about to say that we're probably gonna hit that bump now. I have that also on my list. I need to figure out a way to have very small but fast twitches of these vehicles to basically keep them from just launching things into space. So that's a whole thing. In addition to everything else. But yeah, maybe we'll start with that holding down the button thing. It feels like it should be somewhat simple to implement. The thing is, of course, I don't have really any input currently which works differently depending on, yeah, like that. Just sliding all over the place. Slideroo. Bonk. Yeah, it actually changes quite a lot the overall feeling of this thing, depending on if you have lots of cargo in the back or not. And it's somewhat drifty even without the cargo. So it's probably actually more of a drift vehicle than the Scout, which is perhaps a little silly. Well, I don't know, maybe not. This thing is also pretty slidey. Yeah. I think it's just like it feels more extreme with that vehicle, since you kind of don't expect a truck to be sliding at all, essentially. Or something, I don't know. Anyway, let's get started with that input thing. And then we'll see what comes up next. Rightio, so how does that work again? So we're basically looking for the gripper truck arm component. Here we go. So this thing had something called quick cargo pickup choreography. That's the thing that like does the whole, sort of like a mini state machine that you know, keeps track of okay, do we have something in the gripper claw? If we do, then activating it does one thing. If we don't, deactivating it does another thing, and so on. And so currently it just works like this: get input action, quick action. Quick action is here. Quick action input can be read in multiple input contexts and triggers a vehicle or context-specific action. For example, pick up cargo with the gripper truck. And it is currently set to be an action. Now that's an issue, because an action is something like button pressed or button released, or it's like an instantaneous thing that happens, and then when it's over, it is over. So we want to actually change this to be a state. And a state is like a bufferless, an unbuffered input. It is like, is button down, is button not down, right? So we change it to a state, and that means we can still map the keyboard input to key L, and we can map the right, it's just a different. Right, so we have gamepad input, left thumb, keyboard input, left, or key L. I can't speak. That's vehicle driving controls, and we have gripper arm controls. Same thing, left thumb and key L. Those are still completely fine. But here we need, instead of doing get input action, we need to do get input state. But if we do this, we essentially just break the whole thing, because now we're like returning true for every tick. And this is a tick, I presume, yes. Or pre-tick, but it's pre-tick runs during the tick. It will now return true every tick we actually keep the button pressed. So this will probably just completely break the logic. Let's not have that. What I was thinking, and this is sort of like a, I'm gonna lower the music volume again a little bit. What I was thinking we would do is we would build a small helper type to kind of keep track of these things, right? So we would basically feed it this guy, whatever the state is, and then it would return whether or not it was pressed or rather clicked, like pushed and released, pressed and released, or if it was, you know, held down. So let's do that. Let's add a small little helper thing here to probably like the game helper library. So this thing has a bunch of things that aren't necessarily like related at all, but it has an input.zig. This is where we could perhaps add that type. Let's do that. Let's add a public const. And what do we call this? Pressed held input helper or something like this, right? Because it's a type that helps us distinguish between when something has been pressed or if it is held, right? So sort of like an extra buffer on top of that unbuffered thing. And what this will need is held time threshold, right? F32. Let's set it to 1 second by default. This determines how long the input has to be pressed to be considered held. All right. Does that make sense? I think it kind of does. So you tick this thing and you give it input down as a boolean, and it returns to you is pressed, right? That's a boolean pointer, and is held, and that's also a boolean pointer. Something like that, right? Oh. And like the idea is that these are kind of like buffered. So this will return true only for a single tick, and this will return true only for a single tick. After that, it will go back to being false again, right? I think so. And we probably need, actually, we need to give it the tick delta time as well. And then we can do like a reset for the thing. I think this is basically like the interface. And then we have a few members that you shouldn't necessarily, or fields that you shouldn't necessarily poke at directly, right? So time since input down. Actually, that should probably be something like largest number. Right. And that's one of the things that we want to reset actually. So how would this thing work? Well, if the input is down, that's something that we need to keep track of actually, is input, I'm going to just call it input down, bool false. So if the input is down, and it previously wasn't, then we start, then we reset this to 0. And then, once it has been set to down, start counting the time it has been down, right? So we increment this by the tick delta time. Tick delta time is the fixed update, which is typically set to 60. And then if the input is not down, then we compare this against this, and we determine, okay, do we set this to true or do we set this to true? Right? And actually, held time threshold, this determines how long the input has to be pressed to be considered held. We might want to yeah. No. That's fine. It's fine. We don't. I was thinking we would need a second one, but I don't think we need more than one. Okay, let's just get going here. So if self dot not input down, and input is now down, oh, then times this input down is 0. And also, of course, we can now set self input down to input down. If input is down and it essentially no longer is, then we compare this. So if self time since input down is larger than or equal to self held threshold, then this would be is pressed, no, actually not, held is true. Held is true, else is pressed is true. Right? If self input down and it is still down, then we do self times this input down plus equals tick delta time. Right? Does that make sense? And here we might want to actually reset this to, you know, to that, right? So that it's like a, it's a long time since it's been down, right? I think that makes sense to do. All right, let's give this a go. I'm gonna add some outputs here. So let's call this the pressed held input helper, PHIH. So input now down. Held pressed and that's just like increasing. Or we can set that to time is, you know, whatever it is, decimal to, yeah, that's an print f, so we need self dot time. And these are actually not supposed to be print f's, but just print. That makes sense. Which it does. Okay, so then we can do GHL and probably just quite simply expose this from here. So this would be in input dot pressed held input helper, right, like that. So we're making it available in an easy way for ourselves. So gripper truck arm component, let's do GHL equals import GHL, and then here at some point we want to create one of these quick cargo input helper. This would be GHL dot pressed held input helper, and we should be able to initialize it because we're initializing every field. Exactly. So let's do var quick action pressed false action held, and then we do self dot quick action helper tick input down. That would be this, that guy. Tick delta time should be available to us, yes. And then it's quick action pressed, quick action held. Let's format it like that. Right. So I'm just gonna comment out this. Let's see first if we get some sensible output from the helper. And state is what we want. Yeah, that looks good. So of course we now have it set to 1 second, which is way too long. But that's fine. So I'm pressing L and time goes up. And I think we got some input now down. Okay. So that actually looks good. I wonder why did my formatting not work as I intended it to? Oh, it's supposed to be. I was missing a point there. Yeah, and actually, we probably want to run this logic, this held logic, here, right? As well. We want to run it in both places, actually. Let's actually, instead of loading that full level, we're gonna do the truck test bed work. Or truck bed work. Test level. So, pressing L. Yep, and actually, it starts working after the 1 second, which is good. I think it should technically already have been happening after that. I mean, it doesn't really matter. But I think I had like an equal. Larger than or equal to, but that's fine. It should, however, kind of stop caring about after that. We only want this held to be true for 1 frame or 1 tick, rather. So I think what we want is actually, we don't want that to be a boolean, we want it to be state enum, not no input, input pressed held, past threshold, right? Something like that. And then we have state equals no input, right? So that would be state no input, state is input, right, and so here the input is no longer actually pressed. That means that we want to set the state back to, actually what we can do here is just call self.reset, right? And self.reset should set the state back to no input. Here though, if should we fold this into this one actually? Let's consider this a little bit. This is what always happens when I do these sort of things. I realize that, like, oh, okay, actually, self state is input pressed. This kind of covers both of those cases, right? So then we can just do if input down, and then we do something else. We do essentially this, right? check that fast threshold. That's a boolean, so then we can just check it there. If it's past threshold, then isHell is true. Otherwise, it's isPressed is true. And of course, we can do this maybe even nicer if we do like this. We make this a public const. Pub const output. It's also an enum. None. Pressed, held. Right? And then this returns an output. And then we can do return pressed, return. Those need to be after the outputs, of course. Held, right? Of course, we don't need this if else here at all. We could just do like a ternary operation and return on that, but I want those prints there for the time being. Right, so that's if input is no longer down, and if input is still down, then we do if past threshold. We set the state to input pressed past threshold, and we want to. I got this the wrong way around actually. Pressed. We want to do that. Want to return at the. Oh yes, we are actually held, but we set this to this state where we actually no longer care, essentially. So that's good. Yep. Good. Okay. And the other thing we want to do there is increment this thing. All right. So actually, this got a little more annoying after all, because we can't use that thing. So might as well just use it here after all, and not have that past threshold constant there, because we want to increment this before we read it. Right? Okay. And then finally, if we are in self state past threshold, and we no longer have input down, we want to reset. Right? Does that cover all the cases now? And of course we could turn this into a switch case if we wanted to, which checks the state, and then we would need to have a separate check for these inputs. So I think that's probably okay. Oh, and that the calling actually changed, right? So here we have just the output like that. That should work. Let's have a looky-loo. No field name input down. Indeed. Here we set the state. so that's fine. Here we set the state, so that's fine. Here we set the state only if we are past the thing, otherwise we stay in input pressed. Yes, that's good. And here we don't set the state, so no, we don't need that anymore. What? Oh, right. None. Oh, and we have the game running. That makes sense. And we can't even... Okay. Shut it down via the debugger. Yeah, I get confused because Visual Studio, like the classical Visual Studio, doesn't really allow you to rebuild if you have the thing running. Visual Studio Code does. Okay, so pressing L, burp, input now down, input now down again. Okay. So that didn't work. Oh, of course. Self dot state is input pressed. That's why it doesn't work. There we go. Held. Pressed. Oh, and the pressed keeps running. That sounds good. So it's this one. Turn pressed. Ah, okay. Yeah. We can do this here. We need to do it essentially there. So okay, here we can still do this. We can do past threshold. This whatever it is. Stop. And then we do reset. And then we check that thing, right? Like so. Does that make sense? I think it does. So pressed. Now if I press and let go, within 1 second I get pressed. If I hold for longer, I get held. And this is hopefully useful for many different kinds of inputs that need to react differently if you're pressing or holding. And of course we could just have done actually this. We could have done const quick action input is that, and then we would have done printf quick action input is do a string, and then we do tag name of quick action input. Right? Oh, actually I wanted a colon there. Yeah, so yesterday Andrew Kelly from the Zig Foundation held a presentation where they showed off the new self-hosted backend. Which I'm waiting eagerly for because of faster compile times, quite simply. Yeah, you can actually not really see that. We can only do it if quick action input is not none. Right, then print that thing. So yeah, relatively soon we should be getting faster compile times in Zig. That's nice. So pressed, held, pressed, held. I don't know what like a good sort of held time is. Maybe we should put it here as like a something that can be used by anyone, both mods and the game itself. Held button time threshold. I can type threshold. 0.25 maybe in seconds. And we don't actually have means lib here, so we're gonna need that as well. So means lib is a thing that I've been... Oh, actually we do. Sorry. Do we use it for anything? Yes, we do. Okay, good. Means lib is sort of a part of the code base which I have broken out into its own library. And the idea is that both mods and the game itself will have access to that thing. So things that are useful for both can be put there. Not everything that would be useful to have in a mod is going to be there, but some of it. Right. So let's do held time threshold is means lib dot input dot held button time threshold. So let's see what a fourth of a second feels like. And I need the input here or the output rather to show me that. So held, yeah. I think a fourth of a second is probably pretty good to like start with. You can press it pretty leisurely, and it still feels like, or still detects it as pressed. And then if you hold it a little bit longer, then it, I don't know. Maybe we'll make it. Let's make it like a 0.3, just to be safe. Like that. Okay, and now if quick action input is pressed, then we want to do this basically. Maybe we'll do this with a nice switch case this time around. Well, none would be nothing. Pressed and held. this actually be just that? I think can. So let's see. Now if you press it, tries to grab something. Nice. And of course we're still in the driving mode here. So the annoying mode switching from pre-alpha 1 should be but a memory from the past. Okay, cool. Now then, this guy actually has a resetter. So a gripper truck arm pose resetter, which is sort of like a state machine in itself. A very simple one though. But maybe we can actually quite simply do this. We have an interrupt which actually like stops the thing. But if we do reset arm pose. And I wonder if we should set the state to something here. Reset to rest pose maybe. Yes, because in reset to rest pose it is ticking the resetter. Yes, exactly. So we should basically do those things. So held is self, quick, cargo, pick up choreography, reset arm pose. Take that away, take that away. Right, so now if we click it and then we hold it, it immediately goes back. Look at that. Isn't that cool? It's pretty cool. Let's spawn some cargo. And we get a nice power cell here. So we can start grabbing this thing and then we can immediately go now. Ah, actually I don't want it. I don't want it. I do want it. Nah, I don't want it. At any point, you can go, nah, I don't want it. How cool is that? I'm gonna have to document all of these improvements that I've made to the input system. You can stack boxes quite easily by just lifting them up and going like that. There we go. Oh no! Whoops! I can probably back off this thing. Yeah. So in this case, I can probably do, I can hold it down and it resets, but I can also just click it and it resets. So that's fine. The difference being that holding it down will always reset it, regardless of which state it is in. Pick it up. And put the cell on top of the then yeah, you occasionally run into this problem. Yeah, it's pretty usable though. I do wonder if we should maybe make the resetting speed of the arm slower. At least it's sort of it's catching me by surprise every now and then, that it's like, oh, I need to back away because it's putting down its arm. Right? Like here. But you know, that is something that we can leave like this for at least for the time being, and then you guys can tell me if that needs to be changed or not. How does that sound? Yeah. One thing we could do quite easily, probably, at least as a test here, I don't even need to submit it, is, let's see, where's the resetter? Here's the resetter, post resetter. We can actually we can run this finger opening logic, which opens the fingers, but then we wait a little bit until we start the arm pose resetting, right? So first of all, if we take delta time, we do actually that already here. Okay. So here we can set a time until arm moves, something like that, and we can initialize it to 0. If this is a positive value, it takes this many seconds before the arm starts resetting itself. Fingers open immediately on activation. Right, so then we do, you know, if time until arm moves, and then like time spent active is another thing. Interrupt self up 0. Same thing here. 0. and then we do self dot time spent active plus equals tick delta time, and if self time until R moves is larger than 0, and actually if time let's make that like -1. Initialize it to -1. So if time until R moves is less than 0, or time spent active is larger than time until R moves, right? So if it's disabled, if the feature is disabled, we move it immediately, or if we have been active enough, that should probably be like that, then we do the thing. And arm in rest pose is only set to true here inside of this, so we will actually never disable that thing. That is the case. First, let's make sure this works. Right, so if we just move this like so. Something like that, right? But then here we can set this to maybe we should actually put it here, right? Time until arm moves F32. Maybe 1 second. We might actually have another resetter there up there. Yeah, clearly. What is this resetter then? Gripper arm reset pose. Okay. Yeah. Oh, you know what? We could actually probably just have used that one. Could we not? I think we could have done that. Well, yeah, maybe this is actually nicer this way. Set that to -1, so that will work just as it did before. I don't know, this may be confusing, but let's see. So if I lift this up and I squeeze those fingers together and then I hold down this, now it takes like a while before it gets going. I mean, I guess that might be kind of useful in some situations. If you want to stack these things, then it most certainly is. Right? We do this. We want to put this on top of that big box there. This. So now if we hold it down, we can actually do that, and we can we can almost back away before the thing actually starts closing, right? Bonk. Like that. Of course, we could be really fancy and sort of detect if something is underneath it and only do it when there's not, but like I'm never gonna ship this game if I do all of those fancy things. Right, let's actually have this be in use in both places, but set it to half a second. I think that's probably good. So it doesn't absolutely immediately start moving the arm down, because that might be a little bit, might feel a bit panicky if you're trying to like retract yourself from some place where you're like loading the cargo and all of that. Clickety boo. And whoop. Like that. It feels a little better when it takes a slight pause there. It's not so long that it actually makes you think that, hey, is it actually not going to reset? And of course, you can still control all of this manually if you want to with this in this mode. You can move it very slowly up and down if you have a gamepad. Yeah, the thing actually does, it's in effect there as well. So if we load this into the back like this, you can see that it opens the claws and then it takes a half a second and then it keeps, and then it does its thing. I think that actually felt like longer than half a second though. No, maybe not. Is it developed from scratch or some kind of engine? It's an engine, but it's an engine that I made from scratch. Yeah, there's clearly something with that time out there. It takes like, I think it took like over a second there for it to actually get going. I'm thinking that probably has something to do with this thing, right? We sent this to transmit active. Yeah, it's actually set there to 0 as well. Does Zig feel better than C# or C++ for game dev? I'm using C# right now. Well, it's probably not an. I mean, it's a subjective thing if it feels better or not. I feel it's nicer in most ways. It's definitely simpler than C++. And it's simpler than C# as well. For game dev specifically, there are a few things that are a little hairy with game dev. Like there's no operator overloading, for example. So if you have your own matrices or vector types, then you don't write this. You don't write const vector is vector 1 times vector 2, something like that. Instead you write const vector is vector 1 multiplied by vector 2 or something like that, depending on how you write it. That can be a little annoying. Of course, like floats and things. F is 3.14, 15, 92, whatever times 10. This obviously works, right? Control flow is diverted. Yeah, it's angry with me because I put that below the return value. This thing obviously works, but if you have your own types, you can't do like times with them. You have to use functions, which is like a blessing and a curse. I use Zig and I like Zig because it's so very simple. That is kind of the thing. I wonder if yeah, this is the reason why it sometimes feels longer, because we have a separate state here for opening the fingers. Thank you for your opinion. You're quite welcome. Check out Zig. It's very simple and small to download, and see how you like it. I like it a lot. I definitely feel like it has been a net positive for me overall for this project. I would probably have gotten further in the project if I hadn't used it, but that's mostly just because like I have a lot of C++ code and I need to interop with Zig, and that takes some time. But if you're starting something new or you just want to experiment, then yeah, try out Zig. It has some really awesome features, like an excellent build system, an excellent module system, really good compile time support. What else? Just minimalism. Which is not something that C++ has. C# is also kind of complicated these days, for better or worse. But I like C# quite a lot, especially like older style C#. I like a lot. And I do write a lot of C#, and I write a lot of C++ as well, even though I don't necessarily like it all that much. Godot supports Zig as well. Really? Wow. That's interesting. I didn't know that was actually supported. probably some add-on or something, right? That's interesting. That might actually be a pretty cool combination. Let's have a look here. Burp. Godot. Zig. Zig bindings for Godot 4. 7 months ago. That's not very good. Work in progress Zig bindings for Godot 4. I don't know if this is what you actually were talking about. Features being gradually added to meet the needs of a demo game. So they're using like Godot vectors here. I would have wanted to see how they did math. Apparently they don't really do that. It's just buttons, checkboxes. Yeah, it's not really like... It's not really gameplay in that sense. Native bindings or something like that. Native bindings, huh. I guess if you can interface with, you know, many other languages. There's also 9 months ago. Nah. GD native Godot bindings. What's that? 10 months ago. Just go back in time. Further and further with every hit. But yeah, anyway, what I was saying was that if you can interface with like any other language, things like C# or I don't know what people have actually integrated Godot with, then you can probably do it with Zig as well. This is something kind of recent, 13 days ago. Godot Zig. Was that the thing that, yeah, it's that one. 7 months ago. Original developer has gone AWOL, has been seen for almost 6 months. I forked it over to GitHub. Aha. Oh, GD Zig, here we go. So this is like a new 102 commits. GD Zig, yeah. That looks cool. Undergoing rapid development and refactoring as we figure out the best API to expose things. Yeah, that's how it always is. It's an interesting thing to like have the imports at the bottom. That's not how these guys did it. I guess that can work. Anyway, this is cool. I mean, I don't really know how performant like some bindings like this might be. I remember around the time that the Unity runtime feed debacle was going on, there was some famous article comparing like the Unity C# bindings to the Unity C# bindings, and it was determined that like the Godot, compared the Godot C# bindings to Unity C# bindings, and it was determined that the Godot ones were like kind of poorly performing. So I don't know if this GDSig stuff here is like based on the same sort of flaky foundation, or if they have significantly reworked things since then. I would assume they probably have. But this looks cool. Loading. Doesn't seem to really do anything. Yeah, yeah, check it out. Might be good. Might be really good. Okay, righty-o. Yeah, this state here is a little unnecessary now that we have this new logic here. Because this does essentially the same thing we just implemented. Just it does it in a way where it looks like it opens the fingers fully and then starts to move. While this thing that we implemented is like a time-based thing. Yeah, I'm not really necessarily feeling this right now. So what should I do here? Maybe I'll just actually take this thing away. Like this needs a little bit more thinking, I feel. Actually, we can probably just undo everything. We sort of kind of want like either or. Either we want a logic that works exactly like this, in that it like it opens the fingers and then it yeah, see, another thing. Another way we can do this. It might be better. No, it's that and in it. It's right here. 0.5. 0.5. Thoughts on Jonathan Blow? Hello, Elia. You big troll. Always trying to make me always trying to put me in hot water, are we? Right, so what I'm thinking we'll do here is something like this. And then we'll take away the, I think I had that at -1, and then time spent active. Right. Yeah, ZLS is still really bad with these initialization clauses. Annoyingly so. Would be nice if they got their act together with that. Apparently there's something that's a little tricky there. Right, and then we do actually take this open fingers, take it away. Comment that out. Come on, please work. Open fingers. actually just take this out completely, because we kind of already do it implicitly. Right. We might want to actually bump that time though. Let's see what happens. Right, so now if I actually load this into the back, resetter. Doesn't the resetter actually reset the fingers as well? It does, yeah. So why did it actually not work there then? Okay, you know what? I don't really want to do this today. This was like a half-baked idea that I came up with like half an hour ago, and I don't exactly know if this is worth doing. So let's not, because it might introduce some other confusing things in the gameplay. So I'm gonna have a think about this. We're gonna move on to the next thing on the to-do list, because of course time is running out. So this should be a good state, and this should be kind of, you know, sensible and not very confusing. So load the thing, and it opens the fingers, and then it moves it back. That's fine. And if we now pick up, let's say, this little guy, yoink, and then we put him down, let's say on top of this one. Yeah, like it does the thing immediately, which can be confusing or surprising, shall we say, but it's still sort of, when you've seen it once, you kind of know that is how it works. And this thing is super tricky to actually pick up, it's so small. So let's grab it. Should be able to grab it still, yep. Coolio. Yeah, I think the hold to reset idea was a pretty good one. Just like, I don't want it. Let's drop it. No need to go through any mode switches or anything like that. So let's do something here. Let's put something in the level that allows us to test out this this grabbing of static geometry issue. So let's do like a static pillar, for example. And on the static pillar layer, we will do something like this. I'm gonna put it also right in front of the vehicle so we can easily access it. And let's do maybe a cylinder, make it like, it doesn't need to be that high, 3. And 0.1, 0.1. Is that enough? It's probably actually not enough. Let's make it like 0.35. It should be thick enough that we can like kind of like squeeze through it. The claw, I think 0.5 is probably good. Right, and then we add to one of these scripts, maybe that one. Let's do a dev void static pillar, node layer static pillar. Oh. Something like that. Let's try that out. So here's the static pillar. Okay. And now, oh, that is, oh, yeah, yes, it is. I was just thinking, did I actually forget to set the collision on it? No, it has collisions by default. So here we can sort of do the thing. It is janky as all hell. You should, in theory, just be able to like lift yourself up into the air like this. And the problem is that it's super janky. If someone does this or something similar in the game, then it's going to be probably an issue for them, one way or another. But I don't want it to be this janky. It's just jumping all over the place. So, how do we fix that? And I think we can probably fix it actually kind of easily by going in here, gripper truck arm components, still the same file actually. And let's see where it tries to find a target. Create grip joint. Okay, that's not exactly it. It's probably this one. Find target object. There we go. So it does a sphere sweep. Blocking actors is dynamic. So if we quite simply block static as well, would that work? Static pillar. Gripper arm. Yoink. Oh. Access violation. What are we doing? Well, transform. Oh, that's interesting. So CPP pointer is 0 there, is it? That's interesting. Let's see, we are returning the raycast result. The raycast result as a game object. Is that game object actually? Let's do basis assert source That's kind of interesting if it doesn't actually, if it's not associated with the game object. If that is the case, that would probably mean that there's a bug in my primitive geometry component. And that thing has been probably untouched since, I don't know, before the pandemic or something. Bonk. Okay, so that's not the problem. It might just be that the debugger is actually making my life difficult here, that it's actually not 0. Do you use any sort of debugging tools like Nsight? I have used Nsight in the past, yes. For the longest time I actually had an AMD card in this machine, and so Nsight wasn't really in the cards. And I sort of kind of, because of that, I just never got around to using it again. I have a pretty crappy card, but it is an NVIDIA card these days. So I guess I could use Nsight. And maybe actually Nsight even works on AMD cards these days. I think it might. Well, anyway, I don't really use Nsight these days. I use like RenderDoc quite a lot. If I need to do some like GPU debugging. So target actor, create grip joint, gets it from here. Oh, what? Target actor CPV pointer is 0. Let's add another one here, another assert here, that target actor dot CPV pointer cannot be 0. See if that is the issue. And I need to build. Yeah, I have a feeling that this is probably something to do with the primitive geometry object, but let's try to solve it. So this is called static pillar. Instead of going there all the time, I can run it here. Run dev script static pillar, and then I can just run it faster every time I start the game that way. So yoink. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. So get the target object. What is the target object? Well, we don't really see what it is, but we can actually step into that thing. Yeah, now we can just run it like that, and we have the thing there in front of us. So grip that thing, please. Let's see if we can find out what's going on. So we get the game object. Oh, so we can't actually find it. Oh no, it is just it is just the debugger being the bugger being difficult again. Target actor. Let's see if we can find out this then. Game object at physics actor. Get in here. Maybe this can now show us what the actual game object is. Yeah, this is being really difficult now. This debugger. Damn you. What kind of game am I making? Well, this is a vehicular puzzle exploration game. Where you can also grab things. And we're trying to debug something here. Well, I know I didn't hit that breakpoint. Oh. It's been a long week, folks. It's been a long week. Yeah, I can imagine this is getting cold all over the place. There we go. So, okay, please work now. We don't see what that is. Transform component. Is flag set. Flag physics transform. So it is of the opinion that it's not a physics object. And we are now on the server. That should definitely be a physics object on the server, I think. Let's have a look in the editor once more. So physics box true, yes. Physics material name default. Sounds pretty cool. I played a lot of SnowRunner. Yes, SnowRunner is excellent. All the runner games essentially are excellent. I can quickly show you here. I'm gonna have to continue this debugging in a little bit, but let's launch this with some other launch options here. So this is the level that you can currently play. Looks like this. So there's a little bit of like, you know, Halo Combat Evolved driving going on here. It's much less of a simulation than something like SnowRunner. I'm not even trying to make it a simulation. It's much more gamey in that sense. But the idea is basically that you have like a bunch of different vehicles, and you kind of need to solve issues with those vehicles. And there's this one really huge one called the Mother, which looks like this, which is, you know, large enough that you can actually lift other vehicles with this sort of thing. You can use the crane here to just lift this guy. Everything is mirrored now because I'm looking at it from this perspective. Yoink! This sort of thing. Because they drive with the Mother and then use it to, you know, access other places where they can't normally access, etc., etc. Then we can load in some more test vehicles here, and you can, for example, you can ask your friends. And this is not now the actual objects that you will have in the campaign. These are just test vehicles, but you can ask some of these guys to come to you or drive to a specific place. This sort of thing. Amphibious is it? It is. It looks a little amphibious. We don't actually have any like water areas in the game yet. Though water actually plays quite a bit of a narrative role in the campaign that we're planning. So I guess it could be amphibious, yeah. Yeah, this truck driver, I swear to God, this is like the drunkest driver there is, because the truck it's a little slide. It's like the most recently added vehicle, which is also why we are debugging it right now. And this thing is just so ridiculously slidey sometimes. And hey, Ol Creeper 1234, welcome to the stream. You can see things like that. It's a little slide, this vehicle. The AI is not exactly set up to handle it all that well. Cool art style. Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, the art style here in this level is a little in progress still. This is the first level that I sort of started working on. There's another one which is in progress currently, which at least I like the cliffs a lot better than this one. The cliffs in particular are sort of... I've switched to using a different way of building cliffs here. But yeah, this is still heavily work in progress, this level. So there's just like untextured objects everywhere and all of that. But it is pretty fun. If you want to play this, you can already do it by joining the Discord. You get access to Pre-Alpha 1, which at this point is old enough that you probably shouldn't play it. You should just wait until Pre-Alpha 2, which comes out on Monday. On Monday you get to play essentially the version that I'm now playing, which is improved in many ways. And I'm hoping to release Pre-Alpha 3 with mod support in a couple of months. At that point it should be even more intriguing, since other people can start adding stuff if they want to. It's going to be a little rough around the edges in the beginning, but still. That is the game. Okay, I'm gonna go get a glass of water and then we're gonna debug that one crash issue some more. Monday, yeah. Tell me about it. Yeah, I'm now at a place where I'm sort of like counting features and fixes that I can get in and features that I will have to leave out. So that's fun. Right, so what we are getting here is a target actor. This is actually not... This is not a... it's not an optional. It's just an actor pointer, but it is 0. Yeah, and I guess that's what we're hitting. We're hitting this because this thing was of the impression that the body wasn't actually a physics body. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm clicking the wrong thing here. So let's do physics bindings. What was the thing that we're already doing? Game object get physics actor. Well, that might actually be in the game object bindings. Yep. It's probably that one. Yeah, it's this one. So let's debug it from here instead. With an optimize off. Oh, what? Cannot open. That's because it is open. Are you creating your own engine? I am, yes. I'm stubborn like that. Also, it's kind of the only way I know how to work. Really. Okay, so we hit this a few times, that's fine. Create game object with spawn point index, right, okay. And just out of curiosity, where are we actually? Component factory, vehicle drivetrain component. Yeah, it's just setting up the vehicle at this point. Oh, we're running the wrong level. I don't even have that level here. Let's add it. So it's this one. This is an excellent plugin for Visual Studio, by the way. Command line argument plugin. Should definitely use it if you aren't. Okay. So let's spawn in the pillar. And let's try to grab it. Boink. So what is the game object first of all? Name. Static pillar primitive geometry object 1. That makes sense. Okay. Transform component. Oh. Yeah. Look at that. So I bet nothing has ever tried to get the actor from a physics transform component parent object before, because it doesn't work, at least not from Zig. That's stupid. That's stupid. create physics body. Yep, there we go. Yeah. Okay. So basically, this guy has a transform component. We can see it here. Basis : transform component. The thing is that this game object type doesn't know, you know, here at the design time, if it is going to be a physics object or not. It has this enable physics flag here, which just means that like we can make it a physics body, but it's not necessarily a physics body. And then we have this physics transform component, which derives from transform component. And before we try to statically cast this to a physics transform component, we check if the flag is set. Is this actually a physics transform component? So we don't actually want to do it like this. We want the physics actor out of the thing in the end, but we might be able to get it from the primitive geometry. This also has a physics body pointer. Rigid body static, which derives from physics actor. So the Zig Zig binding here essentially does exactly the right thing, the thing it should do. It's just that this is really old code, and the primitive geometry component is a little bit of a what should I say? It's not really something that's meant to be used like a whole lot in a finished game. It's more just like a way to get something quickly into the scene. Things like now, when we're trying to debug this, or test out this behavior. So it's a perfectly valid way to use a primitive geometry component or a primitive geometry object. It's just that we can't actually get the actor out of it like this. So that's a little bit crap. Anyway, let's fix it, shall we? So, if we don't have an actor here, actually, if we don't have a physics transform, essentially this thing, we can still check if we have a primitive geometry component. Right? And if we do, we can get the actor out of that. Right, so this is something like physics API. 6 API. Rigid body static. RB. Physics rigid body. Right, so if PGC, then we check if the PGC has a physics body. This is like pointer chasing all the way now. Not very nice. But hey. Right, so we need to actually just assign that to that to get the rigid body static. Okay, we probably need to have it here as well. There we go. Physics API basis rigid body static. And that should fix it. And we should be able to just move this guy into that, right? Let's try that again. Like so. So, a bit of a hack. If we don't have a physics transform, it's still possible that the object is a physics enabled primitive geometry object with a non-physics transform component. And if that is not the case, if we don't have a primitive geometry component, then we just return 0. There's nothing we can do. This would of course be very, very different if I was using like an ECS or something like that, because then I would just like have a transform or a physics actor component, which we could like check the presence for or something like that. Or I could have it here. I could just have this primitive geometry component like use the standard way, which is to have a no. Whoa. Which is to have a what's it called? A physics enabled transform component. Right, this however now works. Look at this. Look at me. I'm Mr. Meeseeks. It's a little like bouncy, this thing. Burp, 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 burp. But yeah, I don't think I'm gonna lose any sleep over this thing. We should also be able to do this just by doing it by hand. And again, now that we're detecting that, okay, this is an object that we've grabbed, and do it by hand. And the reason this jerks so violently back and forth is that we now have parking brake on. So let's quickly see. Yeah, now we can actually, if we disengage the parking brake, we can like drive the vehicle back and forth with the arm. I mean, this is silly. You shouldn't do this, but at least now it like doesn't do anything completely crazy physics-wise. And yeah, like I said at the beginning of the stream, I think this motor driving this is like an unstoppable force, essentially. It's extremely powerful. And actually the same thing can be said for this bed. So I wonder what will happen now if we like open the bed. It collides with that. You can see like, and we're just like, we're doing really bad things now with this. Yeah, you can see like the bodies. Bodies are just kind of like, it's not even visually connected to that anymore. We're just doing really bad things here. And let's reset that. It sort of jumps back, and then we can reset this. And it just resolves itself. Okay. Anyway, that's good. Now that works. So now we should be able to just go and grab things. You know, grab a hold of things. Almost anything. It's acceptably fun, jank. Not this doesn't work properly, jank. Exactly. That is exactly the difference that I wanted to have with this, right? It's not jank in the sense that like things just jitter all over the screen. It's just jank that's like fun. This shouldn't be happening, sort of thing. Okay, this tree is probably not a very good example to try, but I'm gonna try it anyway. Okay. Yeah, you can see it, like visually it doesn't quite work because like the collision might be a little different than the actual tree, but yeah, you can do gymnastics now. And yeah, again like the collision there is just fighting it. Now it's probably gonna explode if I keep messing with it, so let's leave it. So I'm just gonna hold and look at that. It just works. So something that's a little risky with this thing is, you know, the fact that you can now do this. You can just drive up to anything, almost. Like here's a pipe. You can just drive up to this, hold the thing. Come on. Actually, you need to press it, and then grab hold of it, and then it will do this. You can probably do that with almost anything now. So yeah, we might want to perhaps limit this somehow, filter this somehow, but I don't know exactly how I want to filter it. So it is possible that this is just how it's going to be in things like pre-alpha 2. Bonk. I think what we will at least want to do is, like, if we are grabbing a static object, then we won't actually be lifting it by default. Like, it does this lifting thing, and parking brake is typically on, right? Which means that it's just like janky as all hell. Yeah, you can do that. You can engage it while it is kind of still rolling. And if you do that, then parking brake might not be that it had time to engage actually. I missed it. Yeah, like that. it's just stupid. So let's make it so that if you grab something that's not dynamic, it's not going to do the lift. It's just going to grab, right? Aye, boom. Could be a fun way to add a secret level though, huh? Have to grab onto a pipe and then you can get sucked up if you pull yourself in. See, that's the stuff that I leave to modders. So you guys, when you get the level editor, I'll let you do all sorts of crazy things like that. I wonder if we can, like, let's see, can I like get up here, or at least sort of partially up, if I raise this a little, drive forward, and then grab a hold of that. Is that not grabbable? Why is that not grabbable? What? Oh, look at this lazy ass developer. So it's just like one big thing. Okay, makes sense, I guess. But can we still not grab it? Yes, we can. Okay. Okay, I need to disengage the thing. Okay, and now I open the bed for some reason. Let's open the bed first, maybe. Yeah, let's open the bed first, and then jank our way up. Can I jank it up so that no? All right, traction point, ladies and gentlemen. It's a good game, I swear. Okay. So let's go back to Zig, and basically we have the target object somewhere here. What is the target object? Grip joint. Spare sweep is here. Find target object. Find target object is here. Set crypt object name hash. Okay, so that's the thing. That's the game object that we are gripping. And now we need to know if the target object hold up a minute. So I basically want to figure out if this object is dynamic or static, right? And then based on that we will determine, do we actually want to lift it up or not. And that thing is found here. We get the physics actor CPP pointer with the physics actor type. Physics actor type tells us whether it is a rigid body, dynamic or static, or some of these other special types. Okay, Okay. To do. Let's add it there. I'm gonna get back there in a second. So gripped object name hash, gripped object actor type is basis physics actor type. Right. Yeah, that is probably the correct place to get this. So target object actor type. Yep. And then the quick action. That's the pose resetter. The quick cargo pickup choreography. This guy. Check if it rest pose, move to rest pose, close fingers, lift object into air. Try to grip object. Yep. Dynamic object gripped. That's not necessarily true anymore. Like it could be a static object that gets gripped, right? So we should probably just call that object gripped instead. How about that? Dynamic objects. Yeah, dynamic object inserted is probably fine. I'm gonna want to change that to objects or something. Probably someone listening to those, right? Yep. That should be just objects. Let's call it like object gripping. That's essentially like what it is. It has to do with gripping and releasing the grip on objects. And then finally, one more change I want to make here to this is when object gripped is sent. Here it is received, but let's add it here. So is dynamic parameters get bool. I'm not having bool here. Oh. Params add int 1 is dynamic. This is the old gripper arm component. It always grips dynamic objects. This one doesn't necessarily. So here we have params, add int, self, crypt object actor type is dynamic. So basically it's like an if that 1 else 0. So get int what does this actually do? Yeah, it just checks that. We don't need to check for that, but I just typically I always get all the parameters out of a message, even if I don't use them. It's just easier. So that is a get int, that is an add int, and that is an add int. Yes. Good. This should build, first of all. And it does, good. And now we can go here and we can do the thing. So pre-tick blah 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 blah. Try the grip object. Grip object calls try the grip object calls grip object, which sets grip object actor type to whatever it is, if it has indeed gripped something, right? And so if self component gripped object actor type is a dynamic object, then we go here, else we essentially don't do anything, we interrupt, right? We interrupt the thing, self.interrupt, and we can add here basis print probably just is enough. Gripped object is static interrupting quick what was it called, quick load, quick cargo pickup choreography. Right. I guess it might make sense to be able to hold on to something in some case. So we can load the cargo and we can load the static pillar, and then we have the output here on the left. So here we can grab that and we can pick it up, and it even hits the pillar there. That's not actually what I wanted to do. I wanted to load it into the back, but whatever. And now if I grab this instead, it goes gripped object is static, interrupting the thing, and I messed this up completely. What should actually be gripped object is not dynamic. It might be any of those other. Might in theory be like a character controller. Though we don't really have any characters in this game, but in theory it could be. so. And then it holds on to it. And again we get this. Nice. It's actually kind of interesting, like the way, since this gripper arm is not symmetric. It has these two pieces that sort of like you know, intersect. When it grips something like this, it actually like tilts the vehicle a little to the... Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. No, 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 no. Oh man. Yeah, I need to be careful with my holding. It was just my mistake. I need to hold it down and then it lets go. Yeah, but you can see when it grips this thing, it tilts the vehicle a little to the left, and that's just because those are not symmetric. That's interesting. That's interesting and cool. Yeah, we need some good guidance for how to use this stuff sooner or later on the HUD. All the controls listed. I mean, I myself don't remember all of them by heart all the time, so. So it makes sense. Okay, guys, I think I'm done for today. I've been doing this for now for well, probably over 5 hours today in 2 sessions, but that's good. Let's have a quick look at the to-do list. Prevent the grip arm from squeezing static objects such as trees. Yes, that's not done. Make it so the quick action button is so that if the quick action button is held down, the gripper arm always goes back to the rest post, dropping in the cargo hell. That's also done. So the things we have still for the gripper truck is sound effects. That's a bit tentative, but I'll try to get it in. See if we can do anything about the gripper sliding a lot when it has cargo in the back. That probably won't actually change for pre-alpha 2, and it's probably not going to be like a gripper truck specific thing, more like sliding overall if we can be tweaked a little bit. Something still tweaked for the AI so it doesn't run into rocks and such. That needs to be probably looked at. And the nav mesh radius a bit larger. They are kind of connected. It has to do with the fact that sometimes it looks like it tries to go through places where it kind of shouldn't. But I also think that it should be large enough for it already, so I don't exactly know what that's about. Only seems to happen with the gripper truck though, so there's probably something there. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for today. If you want to play the game, check out the Discord. On Monday there will be a new build for you to play. which you will be able to access if you join the Discord and check out the announcements channel there. And you can find the Discord link in the description below, but I will just post it there in the chat for you for your convenience. And of course, if you find this interesting, if you find it fun, be sure to subscribe, drop a like, drop a comment. You know what to do. I don't need to tell you. Anyway, on Monday we are dropping Pre-Alpha 2. Might have time to do one more stream before that, but I'm not promising anything. That remains to be seen. With that, I thank you for your time. Thanks for hanging out today. Have an excellent rest of your day. See you next time.